Top 15 wrestlers WWE should invite back for Raw's 25th anniversary.
If you are brand new to our channel, we invite you to take a moment to subscribe. Just click on the lit red button as well as the gray bell. Why the bell? Well, it will let you know every time we post a new video.
15.
Vince McMahon. It seems like the most obvious thing in the world for WWE to want to invite the chairman himself, Vince McMahon, to the show. After all, he is the main reason that the show has remained successful now for almost 3 decades. McMahon was last seen in the build-up to Hell in a Cell a few months ago, when he was attacked by Kevin Owens and left a bloody mess in the middle of the ring. Of course, Vince will have recovered in time to attend the show in just over 2 months' time, but at almost 73 years old, Vince should probably think about being part of the show in a non-physical manner. It was painful to watch the boss get beaten without fighting back last month, so hopefully, WWE learned their lesson and Vince will return to be part of the show, but he won't try to step up to athletes who are less than half his age.
14.
14. Scott Hall. It seems harsh for WWE to announce that Kevin Nash will be in attendance for the event, but his NWO teammate Scott Hall won't. Scott had played his own role in the history of Monday Night Raw, and his move over to WCW really began to heat up the Monday Night Wars. Hall has had his own struggles in the past, but he has managed to overcome them, and was recently inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. When Scott arrived in WWE all those years ago, no one was thinking about a 25th anniversary, because the company was in its infancy. WWE needs to remember some of the stars who lit up their division when they were struggling. It's not always about the huge stars who should be there to grab the viewer's attention. Sometimes it's also about the ones who gave their blood, sweat, and tears to the show, and made a difference at a time when they needed to.
13.
13. Jake the Snake Roberts. WWE has a distinct lack of legends when it comes to some of the faces who deserve to be in attendance for this event. The likes of Dusty Rhodes, the Ultimate Warrior and Roddy Piper should have been here to see this happen for the company that they thought of as much more than a job, but it seems that Jake the Snake Roberts is still here to represent the fallen legends. Jake has been to hell and back, and recently managed to survive cancer. Roberts is the ultimate legend in the eyes of the WWE Universe, and his last appearance on WWE TV back in 2014 was welcomed by a huge ovation from the crowd. The WWE Universe love Roberts, and he deserves to be part of the celebrations, especially after how much he has overcome in the last few years. Roberts needs to celebrate more than any other person who could possibly be added to the guest list.
12.
12. Tej and Christian. It's a shock that Tej and Christian haven't already been announced for the show to be hosting another edition of the Cutting Edge Peep Show. Tej alone is a former 11-time world champion who spent the vast majority of his career on Monday Night Raw. He lived and breathed the wrestling business, and was only forced to step aside through injury. Tej and Christian made WWE's tag team division what it was back in the late 1990s, and they should be joined by the Hardys and the Dudleys next year, if WWE truly wants to celebrate the people who made Raw what it is. There have been many stars who have stepped through that curtain over the past few years, but there aren't many who made the impact and left the legacy that Tej and Christian did in the tag team division, so they need to be part of these celebrations.
11.
11. Brock Lesnar. It should go without saying that the Universal Champion should be in attendance for one of the biggest episodes of Monday Night Raw that the company has ever seen. Brock Lesnar seems to pick and choose the events that he attends, and since this episode of Raw will be an expensive one, Brock could be one of the people that WWE decides to omit from it. Brock is an expensive addition to any show, but the fact that he comes alongside Paul Heyman, who has given his all to the company's creative and booking teams over the past few years, means that the duo should be part of this. Brock is the main champion on the Raw brand, and regardless of how expensive he is to bring to New York, or whatever commitments he has outside of WWE, he needs to be there to represent the brand.
10.
10. Goldberg. Goldberg shockingly decided to make his first WWE return in over a decade last year as part of the promotion for WWE 2K17, where the undefeated WCW star was part of the Survivor Series pay-per-view. Goldberg got a fantastic reaction from the WWE Universe on his return, and it could be argued that he too has played his part in the history of Monday Night Raw over the past 2.5 decades. Goldberg said himself that he was done with the business after he lost to Brock Lesnar back at WrestleMania 33, and hasn't been seen since. Goldberg doesn't need to be part of the show in a physical capacity. He just needs to return to the show, to be seen as one of the stars who is aware that he played his part in making Raw the show that it is today. Plus Brock and Goldberg on the show always makes it interesting.
9.
9. Mick Foley. No one in the history of the wrestling business can say that they have given more to WWE than Mick Foley. Mick was thrown off the top of a cage, and even lost part of his ear for the business that he has been a part of his entire life. Mick Foley even returned to the company before the 2016 brand split, so that he could be the general manager of Monday Night Raw. But after undergoing hip surgery, it seems that Foley has kept a low profile over the past few months, and could finally resurface in time to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Raw. Mick was a great general manager, and didn't deserve the way he was fired by Triple H and his wife Stephanie McMahon, so it would be great for the WWE Universe to bring the hardcore legend back, even if it is just for one night.
8.
8. John Cena and Nikki Bella. John Cena and Nikki Bella have had their own impact on the wrestling world over the past decade. Cena is the face of the company and he will always be associated with Monday Night Raw, while Nikki won her first Divas Championship on Raw, so she definitely has fond memories of the show. A neck injury has caused Nikki to step onto the sidelines following her victory at WrestleMania back in April, while her fiancé has become more of a part-time star over the past year, even though he is set to return to the company for Survivor Series this weekend. Nikki and John are two of the biggest stars who are currently contracted to WWE, and even if they aren't part of the show in a physical capacity, then they should at least be seen there, so that Cena can cut one of his famous promos about his love of the show, and the sport as a whole.
7.
7. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin was perhaps destined to have a much longer career in WWE if it wasn't for a horrific neck injury and consistent problems with his knees, but many stars would have been happy to have had the career that Austin walked away from back in 2003. Since he announced his retirement from in-ring competition, Austin has still served as a sheriff and co-general manager of Monday Night Raw. The weekly show was a place that Austin called home for a number of years, and even though he hasn't been seen on WWE TV since WrestleMania 32 back in 2016, he is still a legend who definitely needs to be in attendance for the event. Is a celebration really a celebration if Austin doesn't make his way to the ring, swig his beer, and then hit someone with a stunner? Maybe it is, but it won't be the same.
6.
6. Bret Hart. Is there really a bigger living legend in WWE history than the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be? The events from the Montreal Screwjob more than 2 decades ago have now become legend in WWE, and Bret Hart himself has since returned to WWE, and was even able to win the United States Championship a few years ago. Bret's niece Natalya is the current SmackDown Women's Champion, which has allowed Bret to make a number of appearances for the company over the past few years, but he hasn't been seen on WWE TV now since Payback in 2016. If Ric Flair is set to be in attendance for the first time since his recent illness, there should be no reason why one of the greatest wrestling families in the history of the wrestling business shouldn't be represented at the event as well.
5.
5. Lita. Lita is one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. There is a reason WWE chose the former 4-time champion to unveil the new Women's Championship back at WrestleMania 32. Lita paved the way for many of the women in the company right now, and in the absence of the likes of Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young, the women's division needs to be represented by its own legends. Lita was last seen as part of the Mae Young Classic, where she was part of the commentary team, and is occasionally seen on the pre-show panels before WWE pay-per-views, but the WWE Universe hasn't seen Lita alongside her best friend Trish Stratus since the former champion was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2013. Lita has her own place in the history of WWE and Monday Night Raw, and there needs to be some female representation at the event.
4.
4. The Rock. It is really considered to be a celebration if The Rock doesn't get an invite. The Rock is one of the most famous former wrestlers in the world, and even though he hasn't officially been part of the company for more than a decade, he still returns to the place where he first found fame as part of some of their biggest events. The Rock hasn't been seen since WrestleMania 32 back in 2016, so he is definitely due for a WWE appearance, even though he does currently have a lot of projects going on outside of the wrestling business, so it may be hard for WWE to be able to bring one of their biggest stars back for one night. If WWE can make it a reality, then they definitely have to have the former WWE champion in attendance. It isn't a party until The Rock tells you that it's a party.
3.
3. Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan's name is synonymous with the wrestling business, and there have recently been rumors circulating that WWE is ready to bring back the legend, after he was basically banned from the company a few years ago, when some of his old comments surfaced and the company thought that distancing themselves was the best thing to do. WrestleMania 31 was the last time that the WWE Universe saw Hulk, when he was part of the match between Sting and Triple H. It was a few weeks later that the comments surfaced and Hogan hasn't been seen since. The world has moved on since these comments were released 2 years ago, and this would be the perfect time for WWE to put their issues aside and allow Hogan to return to the company where he first found fame. There have already been rumors that Hogan could return, so it will be interesting to see if the company bring back the Immortal One.
2.
2. Trish Stratus. Trish Stratus was predominantly on the Raw roster throughout her WWE career, and even though her stint was quite a short one, Trish is a former 7-time women's champion, which is still a record in the company. Trish was supposed to return to the company to face Asuka in a match in her hometown of Toronto back in 2016 at NXT TakeOver, but Trish was pregnant with her second child at the time, so she was unable to return to the company, and was replaced by Mickie James. Trish has since given birth to her daughter Madison, and would be able to return to WWE for the first time in a number of years, to represent the history of WWE's Raw Women's division. With the current women's revolution still in full swing, this would be the perfect time to bring Trish back, and get her thoughts on the current Raw Women's roster.
1.
1. CM Punk. CM Punk's name will definitely be seen as a controversial addition to the list, but there aren't many people over the past decade who have given more to the Raw brand than the former champion. Punk is still the longest-reigning WWE champion of the modern era, and he will be fresh in the minds of the WWE universe, since he only left the company back in 2014. Punk would never return to WWE in a physical capacity again, but the company could reach out and ask the straight-edge star to be part of the show in a cameo role instead. Punk will probably say no, but at least WWE handing out an olive branch would show that there is a chance that Punk could return in the coming years. Maybe Punk and WWE could put their differences aside for one night. This is WWE after all, and stranger things have happened.
Yeah.